So, welcome back to another episode of Tapping into Life. I am your host, Brenda Holder. And if you are new to this community, I am sending you a big welcome and lots of love. I am so truly grateful for you all listening and sharing this time and energy together here in this community. This is about creating real and vulnerable conversations, which leads me to my next guest, which is one of my dear soul sisters. And if this term of reference is new for you, it's a person that you feel connected to at your core. You may not know each other for long, but that energetic connection is so strong that you cannot help to notice it and embrace it. And I feel truly grateful to have this connection with this beautiful human. And even though we're in different parts of the world, our connection stays the same. And that's the beauty of energy. I'm very excited to share with you this beautiful and engaging conversation I had with my dear soul sister, Kelsey Corey, on how to tap into our emotional fitness. Yes, you heard right, emotional fitness. It's just as important as our physical fitness. And there are so many amazing takeaways that we have during our conversation. And we also are going to be sharing with you a special offer, so stay tuned. I want to share with you a little more about this beautiful soul sister, Kelsey Corey. Over the past 10 years, through training in a range of modalities, Kelsey has discovered the power that comes with understanding how to regulate your emotional state. As an emotional fitness coach, she loves getting to share this knowledge and experience with clients, from high-level execs to elementary school kids, with a focus on empowering her clients to better understand and navigate their emotions and stressors. Using a variety of tools and practices such as EFT tapping, breath work, mindful movement, Reiki, chakra balancing, and NLP. Kelsey is known for her infectious positivity, sense of humor, and hugs. Oh yes, I truly miss those hugs. This native Australian lives by the motto that health is wealth. Oh yes, I couldn't agree more. She is grateful for, proud of, and fulfilled by the amazing life that she has created, and is thankful for the opportunity to share her energy for impact to help inspire others along their way. She is also the co-creator of the children's mindfulness brand, My Friend Breath, which offers books and resources that help children develop the skills of emotional regulation and resilience. This beautiful book is truly for everyone, especially for parents, teachers, and the young at heart. My Friend Breath offers a variety of resources for children of all ages. As a gift for listening, Kelsey would like to offer you all 10% off on all the digital materials available with My Friend Breath, and all the great info and discount code will be included in the show notes. So, let's head on to the episode. Wow, I'm so excited to have one of my dearest and closest friends on Tapping into Life. Welcome, Kelsey.
Oh, Brenda, it is such a joy. I'm so excited for this time together today. Thank you for the invitation to get to be here.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. I am so grateful to have you in this space and have this time and energy. And I know that my audience is going to have so many beautiful takeaways from what you have to offer. And it's just such a privilege and a pleasure to share you with the world. So thank you for making the time to be with me and all of these beautiful listeners today.
So wonderful.
I'm really excited to, get right into it and let's talk about what tapping into life means for you.
It's such a beautiful question, and I love it, obviously, from the whole concept of your podcast, of you being here. As I was reflecting on this, tuning in and allowing the guidance to come through of what does tapping into life mean for me? I really connected in with the first time that I watched Avatar, the movie Avatar, the very first movie. And the first time I watched it was actually only last year when the second movie came out as well. And as I watched it, I was sitting, and there was the scene where one of them died and they were being released back, and they shared this concept that our energy is only ever borrowed, and then it goes back into the energy of all and gets repurposed, reshared. And that for me was such a like pivotal moment of really tuning in and recognizing and realizing the immense privilege that we are alive and that we do get to have this life and have this energy moving through us, that it is the aliveness that animates us and brings us and allows us to be and do and have all that we are. And so tapping into life, I see, is this real intentional use of that energy and an intentional gratitude and like a gratitude and I want to say the word intentional again. Let's be intentional about our intentions. But taking this energy and using it, and, this is my concept of using your energy for impact, so that you are showing up and being and doing and having what fulfills you, what makes you proud, living a life that you're grateful for, and showing up in a way that you are proud of. And at the end of the day, I really feel that when we come to the point where we're tapping out of life, and if we are lucky enough to get to be very conscious of that moment, being able to reflect back on the life that we've had and be proud of it and say, yeah, I'm really, really grateful for this time that I've had here and the way that I have been. And so I feel that that's really that's the beauty of your concept of tapping into life and how I bring in energy for impact. They really complement each other and work well together, because it is such a joy, and it is amazing to be alive at this time and in general. And I saw something the other day that mentioned how the earth has been around for billions of years, that billions of beings, all types of beings, have been alive in that time. And, if we're lucky, 100 years, maybe we'll get in there. And it's just, and we don't ever really truly know how long we're going to get. So practicing that gratitude, the reality is we don't actually know how long we're going to get to have in our lives. And so each and every single day, choosing to tap in with gratitude to the experiences that we're having, starting from when you wake up in the day, I'm grateful, here I am, another day ahead of me. What can be, and see the opportunity, see the joy in it. That truly is the essence and the energy of how I'm choosing to tap into my life and use my energy for impact, and with the intention to inspire others to do it as well.
I love all of it. It's so beautiful and so important. Just even having this conversation about energy and how we are aware of our energy. And that was something that I was not prior to learning about tapping and just connecting to the mind, body, and soul. That was a new concept for me. And I think it's coming more and more. Like, people, when you say energy, people are, a lot more aware of that and understanding, actually I am feeling something, it's not something weird. It's okay. Like, I can feel these different sensations, and that's energy. And also how I'm being impacted by other people and their energy, like, it's all around us. It's, like, we've been taught that energy is everything, as well as emotion and safety. But these are things that we don't often talk about. And so I'm glad that you brought that forward for this conversation, because it's important for us to acknowledge.
Yeah, and I actually have a fun little a little ditty, a little rhyme that I sing to myself often when I find myself in emotion, right? Experiencing energy moving to me and through me and between me and the environment, the other people I'm with. And sometimes you can feel like you kind of get stuck in it, or it can feel quite big and almost overwhelming. And as a reminder that it is energy, and energy is constantly in motion, that our emotions are energy in motion. We say emotions are energy in motion. Boom, boom, emotions energy in motion. Boom, boom, and often I'll just do a little tap as I just remind myself of that fact, and it helps to get things moving. Emotions, energy in motion.
I love it.
Because yeah, right. They can be so dense, it can be intense, and it can weigh you down. And so when we bring somewhat of a lightness to it and acknowledging it, like one of the greatest gifts that I've received in my own journey of coming to attune to and understand and acknowledge energy is that when you say, okay, this is what I'm experiencing, when you say this is the here and now, and you bring that energy of acknowledgement, releasing any judgment, releasing any how it should be, instead facing it as it is, that is such a gift. Because the parts of you, and I know you and I love our parts work. I'm not sure how familiar your audience are with parts yet, but the different parts of us, I love to offer to anyone who may say, oh, I've never heard of parts work before. If you perhaps have seen the movie Inside Out, and in that movie, the child has the different emotions inside of her, different parts of her having different experiences that intersect and interweave. That's what we're all having. We've got our different parts, and they may be having different emotional experiences. It may be that there's parts of you that have different tendencies or beliefs, like people pleasing or high achieving. There might be the younger parts of you when we come to our inner child work. So we can identify with many different parts. And I've taken myself off on the tangent of parts, and now I'm forgetting where I was with it to begin with.
That's
I brought in,
okay.
we've talked about
I love
the
it.
acknowledgement of
Yeah.
it. Often the emotion that is persisting and that is fear, like the intensity of it is rising, the charge of it is rising because we are not acknowledging a part of us having that experience. And the power of coming to that place of acknowledgement, and as we've learned and as we practice, so often EFT tapping is a beautiful, beautiful way to be able to come to that place of acknowledgement of your parts. Being seen sometimes is all they need. The simplicity, the opportunity to be seen and heard, to be given the space to share what it is that their awareness is raised around. And then from there, you get to discern, how you can tend to what they're needing or wanting or asking for. And it becomes this really beautiful dance. So when we link this back to the concept of coming into attunement and relationship with our energy and the way in which we're using our energy to show up in the world and the interactions that we're having, it's such a beautiful practice to get into and dance in between, being able to acknowledge what's alive within you and how that is being impacted both through your expression and through what you absorb from the world around you.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that you brought in the parts, because that is something that I have been talking about in other episodes. And it is definitely an important conversation. And it is also such a loving conversation, because we're really supporting all of ourselves. Like, it's not just like I have all this sadness or I have all of this depression. It's like, no, it could be just a part of me, and it really lightens everything up. And so I loved how you've tied this into really what tapping into life means, because there are all of these parts of us, feelings, and, it could be younger child parts, it could be shadow parts, it could be a variety of parts that are just wanting to be seen and wanting the validation. And I love that you've tied that in into this conversation and into the whole concept of this podcast, because that's really the essence of how we return back to our true self, which is what is all about here, is really being in align with who we are. I loved how you talked about attunement and integrating, and it's really integrating these parts of ourselves. And that's really key. And the energy is what is all about doing that and helping
Mm-hmm.
that to move, so we're not in that heavy energy or that busy energy, that we're in that beautiful calm energy. So yeah, I love it. It's
Beautiful. So I would love to hear, I know our audience would love to hear more about my beautiful friend, Kelsey Corey. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing with your journey of energy work.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. It's been a wonderful and wild journey. I would say I've been on this path of discovering energy work probably for, I would say, 15 years now. Believe it or not, a former version of Kelsey that lived in Australia and followed her heart into an opportunity that was given to her for 6 years. I worked in IT project management. So to me, that's like really like chalk and cheese when it comes to now being how I frame myself as an emotional fitness coach. So I've come a long way in this journey of embodying and stepping into my power of sharing my energy and using my energy to help support others in their own energy management and the navigation of their emotions and the journey of that. And so when I essentially hit a point where I'd taken what I could from project management and realized that it wasn't lighting up my soul, it wasn't fully fulfilling me. I learned a lot, and I'm so grateful for it. Being a businesswoman and entrepreneur, a lot of that was such a core foundation for me. And then off I went on this journey. My journey actually into the energy world started more on the physical side of things with Pilates, and I became a Pilates instructor, and that's what guided me to move from Australia to Toronto, Canada. And that's where we got to meet.
That's right.
And I worked in Pilates. And then I also was working in kind of operations and administration for a couple of startups, whilst also gathering my toolkit, like building my toolkit. I did my Reiki training and I did my yoga teacher training, chakra balancing courses. And it wasn't until my mum, my amazing mum, I call her my guru, she is the one that guided me to EFT tapping. And I personally was having some challenges with my own emotional management. I was often faced with circumstances where I was very passionate and I cared a lot about what was going on. There's a particular memory from the job that I had at the time, a meeting I had with my two bosses, and I was representing the rest of the staff and advocating for a change that we desired. And I became so emotional in that meeting because what I was asking for was getting a little pushback from my bosses, and that was a challenging thing for me to navigate. And I became what I later learned is called verklempt, and it's when you get so choked up with emotion that you really struggle to speak, and it like you're on the brink of tears, you're all like clogged up, and it's just I ended up having to basically end the meeting, and I was so pissed off with myself. I was so hard on myself after that. And I just like my own inner bully and critic was just going a number of rounds on how I should have been different. I should have been able to compose myself. And so it was really interesting that kind of at that same time as I'm realizing, well, surely there's another way here. I witness other people be able to maintain the composure within their emotional state, even if they are feeling these big feels, they're able to do it. So surely that's possible for me as well. And around that same time is when my mum, who had discovered EFT tapping through Gabby Bernstein and her book, and that's we had the joy of getting to go and see Gabby together in Toronto, Brenda. Like it's so many full circle moments in this. It's beautiful. And essentially, we looked up and there was a tapping with the National EFT Training Institute. It was less than a month away when, it all became part of our world. And so Mum said, I really highly encourage you, AKA I'm paying for you to go to this course. And I was open-minded to it. I was still a little bit like on the fence. Life was busy. So I didn't get to fully do the preparation for it. And I showed up on that first day. And I remember walking into that room, and very soon into the training, we're all sitting there and we're tapping on our faces, and I'm looking around going, what are we doing? Like, what is going on here? And by the end of that 3-day training, I was hooked. I knew that tapping, from that moment, there was pre-tapping Kelsey and there was tapping Kelsey. And it has continued, like we're coming into the 6th year, I think, from our first Discover program, or from my first Discover program, like 6 years of this. And I have transformed through using EFT. And it's amazing how much it's changed my own life and the joy it brings me getting to support others with it, getting to introduce it both to adults and to kids as well. Like that's the amazing part of my journey, is that I have been able to kind of branch into and support across all ages with these mindfulness tools, integrating tapping and breathing and meditation and journaling, and just kind of how it's all evolved. It's been really, really marvelous, really wonderful. And I went full time with Energy for Impact back in December of 2019, and I was all gung-ho. And another tool in that time that I'd added to my toolkit is Thai massage. And so I had taken over a second room in the house that I rented in Toronto, renovated that with the help of my amazing boyfriend, and I was all ready and welcoming clients so that we could do a combination. I love combining EFT with Thai massage and Reiki, and it is a profound and incredible experience. And it was going great till 2020 came around, beginning of 2020, and all of our lives shifted. Everything flipped. And I'm very, 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 very grateful that EFT is a modality, is a tool that we can use and practice virtually. So phenomenal. So grateful to get to take what I was already using to support people and take it into this virtual realm where we all began to live a lot more than we had previously. And that has been, the journey of then being inspired to create what I framed as the EFI gym, the Energy for Impact gym. And the whole concept of emotional fitness was born as a result of shifting into the online world. And it came to me one day as we kind of, when COVID first hit, I remember a lot of us in our tapping world started running first aid sessions virtually with, okay, invite people, come in, we're going to tap, we're going to acknowledge all of the emotion that's coming up. And so, emotional first aid, that was the first time I'd ever heard of something like that. Mm-hmm. And I love combining tapping and journaling. They are just, woof, they work so well for me. And as I was doing that one night, I'm tapping and I'm journaling, and this concept of emotional fitness landed for me. And I was like, I've previously not thought of it like this, but by goodness, does that make sense? Based on everything we've been learning about our nervous system and the capacity of our nervous system, our window of tolerance, and the ability for us to hold the charge and the intensity of emotion, yet maintain our composure. My whole goal of what I had been consistently looking for support around and working on for myself. And so that has just been a beautiful evolution, then flowing into the EFI gym, which I ran with 5 other incredible practitioners. We had the range of modalities. We did that for over a year. And it's just continued to evolve. Pressing pause on the gym was the right decision at the time, because that allowed me some spaciousness to lean into the project that my mum invited me to collaborate on, which is our beautiful book baby, My Friend Breath. We've got a range of other resources that we've developed around this. And so it's just been this incredible journey of getting to really bloom and blossom into this energy-based world. There's all of these different modalities, these different practices that really help to support the expansion of your nervous system's capacity to be with and navigate the emotions of life, the rainbow of emotions that we all experience through life, and show up in a way that you're proud of as you experience them. That's really become the core understanding of how I frame it, how I approach it for myself, and how I help others. So it's just, it's phenomenal. So thank you for letting me share all of that.
Oh my gosh, I love all of what you've shared, and there's so many golden nuggets here that I want to go back and open it up a little more, if that's okay.
Let's do
Yeah, I really I think this is an important conversation around the emotional fitness because it's not something that's really talked about, in society as a whole, right? We're very focused on the physical aspects of our health. We need
Mhm.
to go to the gym, we need to be moving our body. We're not really talking about our emotional part. Now, sometimes we might be getting confused, like, well, is that, mental health, is that emotional health, like what's is there a difference, like what are your thoughts on that, Kels, around the
Yeah.
emotional versus the mental health piece?
That's a great question. I feel that there is, when we talk about like spiritual health, mental health, emotional health, physical health, we can pinpoint elements of it, and yet I feel that they are all so magically intertwined and blend over. If you think of like the circles and how like everything crosses over one another and have those kind of connections. So if we're thinking about our mental health, I would specify and go into that a lot around specifically the thoughts that you're having and kind of the relationship and the voices that you have in your head, like the mental health aspect of the conversation and the beliefs that you hold around yourself in that regard. The emotional health to me really integrates into the subconscious, like every cell of your body is your subconscious mind, and we're bringing in those emotional experiences that really happen through the mind body soul connection. Kind of the combination of all of that is the representation of your emotional experience, and you can bring in and factor in the spiritual aspect to it as well. So to me, I guess like the emotional is the overarching kind of umbrella of them all, and then we can connect in with each of them, because a lot of the time we can have emotional energy moving through us that we don't have specific thought attachments to, yet it may be sensations and experiences in the body that's how we know that we're having that emotion. And so yeah, that's my perspective. What's yours?
Yeah, I really like how you explain that. Like it was really simple and very easy to understand. And I think that that's, an important part of when I worked in mental health. It was sort of based on like a lot of diagnosis. We had anxiety, and we have depression, and I worked with a lot of children that had a lot of behavior. So sometimes, there was ADHD and ADD, and there may be other things going on as well. We were putting To me, it felt like more like we were kind of being in categories as opposed to looking at the whole person and really what is going on for that person as a whole. And it wasn't until I got introduced to EFT where I really started to understand the thought, the emotion, and the body. There was such a disconnect. And the bizarre part of all this is that I was teaching, like social skills, anger management groups to children. Back in the day, this was kind of the trend. It's like, okay, we need to deal with this. We need to kind of get a handle on the anger. And at the same time, I guess there was a part of me that was like, these traditions are not working. We need to have a release. Like it was, and I didn't understand the whole energy concept at the time, but I guess on some level, there was a part of me that did and was like, yeah, we need to be able to release this. We can't keep suppressing. But there was definitely disconnects. Like I didn't feel like my thoughts were, allowed to be connected to my emotions. And then,
Mm.
oh, actually have emotions in my body? Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, and so what I like is that when people maybe have used cognitive behavior therapy, coming over and trying EFT is really not that different, other than you're tapping on your pressure points. Well, it's actually, I would say, quite different because you're supporting your brain and your nervous system. So when you're starting to address maybe those emotions that are not as easy, that they're more uncomfortable, you can do it safely because you're keeping that nervous system and that brain calm. And I think that's the part that is so important to be really emphasizing here, is that we want to be able to hold space for these parts of us, especially those feelings, but oftentimes we just don't know where to start or how to do it. And I love how you talked about you have all these tools. You have created such a great toolbox. And one of the tools you talked about was tapping and journaling. And I started lighting up because that actually is how I really got into journaling too, was through tapping. But I'd love for you to share with the listeners, how do you do that, and what are some of the benefits that you get from tapping and journaling?
Oh, I'd love to. I love to. I love to share these different practices, these different approaches. So to begin with, if you already have a relationship with journaling, fantastic. If you're new to it and it's maybe something that you're curious about, this is a really playful and fun way to enter, to experience it, to begin your journey with journaling. So I love to start out creating some space for myself. Maybe it's a matter of dedicating how much time. Sometimes we can resist doing journaling because we think that we're actually going to be caught up there for hours because there's so much that could come through. So creating a time frame for yourself can be really helpful. Or saying to yourself, there's a practice that comes from the book The Artist's Way, and it's called morning pages. Truly, these pages could be done at any time of the day, but the idea is that you dedicate to getting a journal and capturing 3 pages in that journal of what's called stream of consciousness writing. And that writing is just allowing whatever is going on in your mind to be captured on the paper, literally thought by thought, word by word, as it's flowing to you and through you. So that is kind of an avenue that I would first connect with and playing with, tapping and journaling. Before you even, though, pick up the pen or the pencil to the paper, take a few moments to ground, to tap and breathe a few rounds at least. And that's as simple as tapping on each of the points and connecting with your breath in a very intentional way. Inhale on one point, maybe exhale on the other point. Tuning in and allowing any thoughts that are happening to be in the background, because your focus, your attention is on the tapping, the pressure, the rhythm on your body, and the breath as it's moving in and out. After a few minutes, you say, okay, time to allow it to flow, and sit down, start writing. And as you're doing that, the more you practice this, the easier it will become. But you'll notice when there's something that you write that you go, oh, and it might be something that you're acknowledging for the first time yourself. Often I like to think of it as we've got this ball of mixed up twine in our heads, and as we're journaling, there's a connection to the pen, and it's like one single line, you're kind of unraveling that out of your mind as you're writing, and it's giving this opportunity for you to come to your own realizations about things. And when that arises, it's when you pause and you tap and you acknowledge it. And it might be supportive to you to reread, connect with what you have just captured, repeat it to yourself. You might prefer to simply tap and breathe as you connect in with and notice any of the sensations in your body that have arisen as a result of what you've just captured. Whether it's the words that are the indicator first, that some tapping might be supportive, or maybe it's the feeling that you get in your body as you're writing those words that you realize, okay, I'm going to tap here. There's something underneath this. And that's why I love integrating the tapping with the journaling, because it's that opportunity to get to that deeper layer. And as you tap, it's literally sending signals to your brain to say, I am safe in this moment. It's okay, whatever is arising within me. And from that place of safety within yourself that you are creating, the part of you, the experience that you're having, feels that it can open up, it can expand, and it can share more as to what it is that you're unraveling, what it is that you're realizing, learning, exploring with yourself. And these can become really quite like deep and reflective experiences. You can really get to the bottom of some of the things that you've been maybe noodling on and playing out in your mind again and again. Perhaps there's an experience, an interaction that you had that you're wanting to work through and reflect on, why did I show up that way, or why did I have this reaction, rather than being able to respond in a way that feels good. That's one of the concepts that I've really appreciated connecting with, and that I love to teach to people, is that difference between the reactionary you and the responsive you. And the reactions that you have, and these sometimes are called our stress reactions: fight, flight, freeze, faint, fawn. These are not something that you choose. This is when your window of capacity, the emotion, the charge of the emotion has gone to such an extent that you're unable to hold it anymore, and it spills out and you react. When you bring yourself back into a regulated state, back within that window of tolerance, you are able to be more responsive, and that is how you choose to be. And this is that fine line, and I know everybody has had this experience. A time will pop into your mind when you were on the brink of saying something that you knew, part of you knew you'd regret if you said it. Another part of you was egging you on to say it because it would feel so good just to acknowledge that and say it out loud at that time. And that in that moment is where you have that choice between, are you going to lean into the reactive part of you, or are you going to take a pause, take a breath, ground yourself, do some tapping? Like my partner and I, we tap whenever we're having a heightened conversation, a conversation where our emotions may be quite expansive and we're getting a little charged. We tap, and we're at this point where we're able to acknowledge to each other, I'm going to choose not to be reactive right now. Give me a minute. Let me come back down. Let's just ground. Like it's so important and impactful and readily available when you have the knowledge and you've practiced applying it. That's one last thing I'll say here, is that it's the importance of practicing this. It's a training of your nervous system. We talk about emotional fitness, just like physical fitness. You can't go to the gym, do an abs workout. Oh my gosh, great core workout today. It's fantastic. Cool. Got a six pack for life. If only.
I know, right?
No, you have to continue showing up and doing these practice, because your window of tolerance is it's a living, breathing being, just as your physical body is a living, breathing being. You are changing every day in some way, and where you are on any day is going to, depend. And this is, I guess, just in the broader scheme of taking good care of ourselves as well. Like, are we getting sufficient sleep? How's our nutrition going? Like, what are our relationships like? What's our stress levels like? All of those contribute to where your window of tolerance and your capacity is able to be. So there's these beautiful practices that we can do to be training ourselves and to be able to recognize where our edge is between reacting and responding, and become more aware of that for ourselves. And there's everything else we can be doing to take care of our whole self, such that we're able to show up and be more confident to maintain ourselves in that grounded, regulated, calm, alert, ready to go, and just loving place. Like being able to relate to people from a loving, compassionate, kind place. Like that to me is the goal, and that is the practice. So let me just tune back in, because I know I tangented again. I'm very good at that. In terms of the journaling practice, I would just say, whether you have allocated an amount of time, whether you've said a few pages, and whether you maybe get on a roll with it and you realize that you're really unpacking something powerful and you want to come to completion, like trust yourself as to when you'll know when the time is right to put the pen down. And then take some time to tap and breathe and anchor in at the end of that practice and reflect back on, what did you get out of it? How are you feeling in your mind and body now, right? Take that little check in with yourself at the end, to acknowledge what you may or may not do differently next time, how it supported you, and really anchor into the outcomes that have that are there to help you align and to shift you forward. Like, what are any aligned actions that maybe came out of it, a new awareness that you've got, an intention that you're setting from having spent that time really tuning in and getting to know you on a deeper level with these amazing tools.
Oh my gosh, like so much goodness. Like I've taken notes. I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to be doing this. Yeah, I think too, Kelsey, that really stood out for me is that oftentimes we just don't know, like, how do I get started? It's like I hear this journal thing is good, but I'm very busy. I could be, I've got a family, I've got my own business. I've got lots of stuff going on. How do I find the time to do this? And I
Mhm.
really like how you really took us through the steps of how we can start. The beautiful thing about it is that you talked about, the grounding, when we get grounded. And I actually heard this in yoga and I was like, this is so applicable to everything, is that we really need to clear some space in our head. Like we often are, we have, I don't know how many thoughts per second. Like it's crazy. They're just constant, right? And then sometimes we like attach ourselves to these thoughts, like, oh, I'm gonna like ride this one, I'm gonna really ride this wave and it's gonna really like stay with me. And it's often a limited belief that we're like hanging on to, or a
Yeah.
couple, and it really takes up like so much space. And I remember they were talking, like we were doing a pose and it was very uncomfortable, right? You're in this like pose for a long time, it's hot, you're uncomfortable, and they were like, just connect to your breath, you're safe. And I loved how you talked about that too, is that when we reaffirm that, our body just almost goes, oh, finally, like, yes, like you feel that sigh. And I think it's that beautiful thing too with journaling, is we often put these expectations on ourselves that it has to be a certain way, a certain amount of time. It's like the gym. We have to do, oh, I'm supposed to go 4 times a week. Well, I haven't been able to fit in the 4. So forget it. I'm not going to go. And it's, you know what? Okay, we didn't get there today. We're going to start again tomorrow. Like it's a new day. Okay, I didn't fit in journaling today. We're going to start again. But when you start tapping, it's it's amazing how much it changes, because it clears out that space of negativity, that limited, it's not going to work, I can't do this. It quiets that chatter down like so quickly. So again, I'm really emphasizing this to the listeners, that if you haven't checked out tapping, you want to go back to my second episode, because I really go through how to do the tapping. I do a tapping meditation. And so then to do this great exercise that Kelsey has shared with us around the tapping and journaling is really going to be a nice way to tie it in. And I think too is that it really clears away those clouds of like that negativity, that self doubt, that judgment and inner critic voice that is just holding us in this stuck place. And when we tap, it really opens things up. So I really love this whole idea. And I think that, do you think this is something you could do with anybody, like any age? Would you recommend the tapping and journaling?
The tapping and journaling? Great question. Hmm. I feel that obviously, as long as they've got a grasp of language, like my brain goes immediately to kids.
Yeah.
It's like, well, kids, this is where the picture tapping could be and does work wonderfully, right? It's like draw what you're feeling, and that is really, and then do some tapping, and there's that whole structure and that whole of the emotional freedom techniques. Picture tapping is a technique that we can use. And then so yeah, like I think journaling from an age where it feels like it's comfortable to be writing and working with it, like introducing your, like turning to a journal as a support system that you have that you can use, the younger the better with all of these tools. It's just, in my opinion, it's the younger the better. That's why, like, one of the reasons and the way that My Friend Breath came about was when my sister had the first child of the family. So my mum's first grandchild, my first niece was born, and my mum was driving home from the hospital and was inspired and thought, well, what kind of gift could I give to my granddaughter that would reflect the immense love that I feel and pass along to her the knowledge and the wisdom that I've gained about the importance of taking care of yourself with these different practices. Because my mum has been using breath work specifically for many, many years, alongside the tapping and different practices as well, to support management and navigation of her emotional state. And so my friend breath literally came to her as the idea on that drive home, and it's been an incredible journey. Like, Macy's turning 5 this April, and it's like, yeah, like from the idea, the inception of the idea, to it now being a book that's out there around the world and is impacting the lives of kids. And we've developed multiple other resources. We've got a second book on the way, and in our second book is where we're introducing tapping. The second book is called Sail to Sleepy Time, and it focuses on practices with the breath and tapping that you can use to help regulate the nervous system before sleep. Because so much of what is out there is that's recommended to help you prepare for a great sleep and getting to sleep for those people that have challenges with it, focuses on the external environment. Whereas we know through our work that the internal environment, the nervous system, is what needs help winding down, releasing the charge, releasing the intensity of the day, coming to a calm, regulated state. And from that place will quite naturally and easily allow itself to fall to sleep. So it is such a joy to have realized that my passion and my purpose here on earth is to get to share these different practices with young and old. Because as much as my friend breath is designed for the kiddos, it's helping as many adults. Like, I went to the gym and one of the dads was like, I cannot tell you how many times that starfish breath has been helpful for me. Like, it's just amazing to get to hear that, and to realize the impact that it's having, not only on like the kids of today, but that this will be here ongoing even after I've left this earth, after my mum has left this earth. Like, the ongoing impact of these practices, and that the kids that are learning it today, because it's something they'll have grown up with, they'll be more likely to introduce it to their kids. And like, the generational impact of this is just makes my heart explode with joy. So that's that. I do have one other thought that I'd love to share, but I'll pause there. I have one other thing I'd love to offer to the listeners in terms of the practices and integrating this into life.
Oh my gosh, yes, we want all of it, Kelsey. But yeah, I want to definitely let our listeners know that there is where we can find your beautiful book, My Friend Breath. Because I know that there are going to be people wanting to get this beautiful book for themselves, for their children, for maybe grandchildren. But even just like I loved how you said, like, this is not an age book. This is for everybody. And I think we can relate. I think that the other thing that I love about what you and your mom have created is that you've made this fun, but you have made this that we have it already. Like, this is about our breath. This is just like tapping. We have fingers, we have these tools right within ourselves. And I think that these are just really nice, gentle reminders that we actually have everything we need within ourselves. And when we kind of quiet that noise outside of us, we can realize that a lot of what we have is right within us. And the more we can teach that to the younger generation, what a game the world will be. Like, we will have such a different energy going on in the world. Like, you just connect to your breath, and let's throw in some tapping. Like, wow, like, we're going to have children that are going to be in a Zen energy. Like, they're going to be, oh, wait a second, I'm having a big emotion right now. Let's do some tapping. I'm going to breathe. Like, whoa, isn't that like,
Yep.
I mean, that's going to be so profound. So we're going to put all of the great information about My Friend Breath. And also, I know you've got some great resources for that book, for families, for schools. So please share, and that will all be in the show notes. But I love to hear some more of your great tips that you could share with the listeners for emotional fitness. Yes, please.
I love it. Thank you, Brenda. I will emphasize that the empowerment piece is at the core, is like such a foundational, important aspect of this, both with what we're doing with My Friend Breath, which you can find at myfriendbreath.com, all the amazing information for that, and for what we're doing with energy, or what I'm doing with Energy for Impact, and empowering people to bring these practices into their lives on the daily. And I love to frame it. The approach that you bring is one of love, meaning you're doing it little, often, varied, and enjoyable. So from the idea from the idea that even a few minutes can be super impactful in helping you to change your state. So simply tapping and breathing, whether it's with a favorite song that you have that you like, that becomes kind of the timer for you, you tap and you breathe through that song. Might be that it's something that you do while the coffee pot is doing its thing, and you stand there and you tap and breathe and you ground, or you practice some breathing, you do some shaking, you do some dancing. Like, all of these different tools and practices help to have an impact on the state of your nervous system. And it's this little, often, incorporate it throughout your day. A lot of people, I find, are really gung-ho on the morning routine, right? Get up and we do all these things in the morning, and that's beautiful, and it sets you up energetically for the day. And if you can incorporate, what about a little midday little tapping? I love to use tapping in the transition moments. Okay, you've just come back from lunch, time to sit back down, get back into it. Okay, let's take a few minutes. Let's tap and ground and breathe. Let's drop into focus, and away we go back into the workflow, right? As a transition at the end of your day, winding down, releasing all that you've been focusing on, right? Especially if you're switching modes, like if you're a parent and you're going from work mode back into parenting mode, like just supporting yourself and acknowledging that, and acknowledging and checking in with you, and recognizing what your capacity is, and meeting yourself as best as you can where you're at, and integrating these practices. I said varied, the variety of them is key and core. Like, tapping helps a lot of the time. It won't help all of the time. It won't be what is the one thing you need to do in every moment. Sometimes it's that you need to go out for a walk and get some fresh air. Sometimes it's that you want to dance and you want to move around. Sometimes it's drop into complete stillness and meditate, which anytime you're meditating, just like we did with the journaling, and we started with a few minutes of tapping to ground ourselves, highly recommend combining some tapping before dropping into meditation, because it will give you, it's almost this like wind down. Sometimes we can be going from like whatever's going on in our lives, and we go, okay, now I'm sitting down and I'm meditating and I'm expecting stillness of myself. It's like, use the tapping to give your mind and your body that chance to just down regulate into that stillness state. And so we have a variety of tools. Choose the ones that are enjoyable for you. That's our E in this love approach. It has actually been proven through a study that if you do physical exercise that you don't enjoy, it's counterintuitive. It is not going to help you. In fact, it's going to have a negative impact on your physical health. I believe it's the same when you're approaching your emotional fitness. Do the things that you enjoy. You may not have complete joy in the moment of doing them, but it's not something that you have full resistance to, right? Like, it's you do feel and receive the benefit from it overall, and therefore it's something that is in your list of the practices that support you to approach caring for yourself with love, because the ultimate goal is to be able to show up in a way that feels really good to you, that you feel proud of, that's fulfilling, that you're grateful for, and that is bathed in the love and the compassion and the care that you have for yourself and others, and the relationships that you have in the world. So yeah, that's my last little takeaway. I'll leave you there. I know that we could talk all day. Oh my gosh, this has just been so much fun.
So good. I just wanted to tag on to the whole love thing. And one of the things that was really helpful for me, because I wasn't really embracing cooking. And this was also, I think, too, when it was kind of like, well, you kind of have to, because there's no other option. You can't go out. But what was interesting is I would sit down and I would start doing some tapping. And I would change as I started to tap. I just tapped and breathed. I didn't have any thoughts, or I tried to not have any thoughts. There were thoughts about, I don't want to cook. I'm not going to enjoy that. There was some negative. I'm going to be honest here. There were some negative thoughts, but I was trying to just ground myself, right? Tap and breathe. And after I did probably maybe like 2 minutes of tapping, not very much, not very long, I noticed it started to shift. Like, you know what? This isn't going to be too bad. Like, we don't have to make this a big deal. We've got some things already figured out. Like, it's shifting, right?
Yes.
But the other cool thing that happened that I think is important, it ties into what we talked about at the beginning, was energy, is that when I changed my thoughts and I changed my 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 emotions, actually, I went into the kitchen with excitement and I loved what I was cooking. Like, I started to have a love. So what you were talking about, having that love, I started to love what I was cooking. And what was really interesting is that I noticed I was getting more compliments on my cooking. I was like, I don't know that I was doing all that much different, yet I was, because my energy, I was loving the food. And I remember one day Brian came home, that's my husband, and he was not in a good energy. And I sort of put this like imaginary wall. I said, whoop, you got to stop. You got to like, you can't come into this space because your energy is going to affect the food. And he was looking at me like not really impressed. And I said, I understand, but I really need you to step out. Like, I've got this. I'm good. Do you need something? And he was like, I need a drink or whatever. So I'm like, okay, here you go. And off you go. And I sort of did a little tapping just to clear the energy. And afterwards, when we were eating dinner, he was like, thank you for that, because I didn't actually realize that I was not in a good energy. I had a bad day. I just came home and I was like, yeah, like I could feel it. It was heavy. And he said, that really helped because I just took some time to just breathe and kind of quiet myself down. Not everybody taps, but what I notice is that when I take the time to calm myself down or connect to my energy, it has a beautiful effect on other people.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah. So I love that you shared that transition is key, and that also when we're not, when we're, the enjoyment, right? We want to do things we enjoy because that's a higher vibration, and we're bringing that beautiful energy, which is that higher energy, to whatever we're doing. So it's going to like have a ripple effect throughout whatever. And especially if you're cooking with food, food is energy. Our food has vibrations. So that is so important, which fuels our body, and it's going to give us, a lot of that good nutrients, but energy. So that was,
Yes. Oh, I love that. I'd love to comment just briefly on it because you touched like that is just brilliant to bring up as an example here. And what's popped into my mind is to point out the experience of co-regulation. So it's your nervous system and the energy that you're bringing is emanating to and through you and around you and coming up against the energy systems of everyone else and everything else that you're experiencing. That's why nature, we often love going out and spending time in nature, because the energy systems of the trees and all of the experiences that we have and the beings that we meet in nature are so calming, and the co-regulation that happens through the nervous systems is beautiful. So you notice that often people's energy can impact you, and it's my belief that through doing these practices consistently and through the training of it, you expand your own capacity to stay grounded in your energetic state and not be directly impacted and have a more dense or lower energy bring you down to their state. You're able to maintain your groundedness and have that positive influence on them to help release their energy and lift up to that high vibration as well. And that's where, like, one of my favorite quotes, And it's almost like a philosophy for me that really underpins kind of energy for impact, and just the whole purpose of tapping into life and showing up as your best self, and being proud of how you're being, comes from Maya Angelou. And it's, people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And I think that is just the absolute core essence of really everything we've spoken about today, is this recognition that you are responsible for the energy that is coming to and through you. It is a gift to be able to tap into life and with intention understand the ways in which you can influence and impact and help yourself navigate the emotions and the energy in motion within you, such that you then show up and share that energy in a way that leaves people remembering you because of your energy. Like, to me, that is check, success, life well lived. And it's just so special. And it's been such a joy to get to talk to this and share my knowledge and my experiences, and plant seeds in the minds of all the beautiful listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in and receiving this. And I look forward to connecting. You can find My Friend Breath, Energy for Impact, on the socials, on the web. The info will be in the show notes. And yeah, my heart is full of gratitude and love, and enjoy the journey of learning to tap into life and use your energy for impact.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. This was just such a pleasure, and I have so many shivers. My heart is so full. So thank you. And I know my listeners are going to be so grateful. So
Love
thank
you
you
so
so
big.
much. Big love.
So thank you again for listening to another episode of Tapping into Life. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and you've gotten some takeaways from our conversation. I know I have. One of the favorites for me is tapping and journaling, and I love journaling. I love tapping. So I think, wow, what a great way to incorporate the two. And it's also such a beautiful way to calm your mind and body while you're working on some of those maybe harder thoughts and emotions. So thank you so much for sharing all of this with us, Kelsey. I know it's going to be so much value to our listeners, as well as your generous 10% discount on My Friend Breath digital products that people can find at your website, myfriendbreath.com. And you're going to enter in the coupon code, it's uppercase superhero Brenda, to receive your 10% off. And all of that information will be included in the show notes. As well as, if you would like to reach out to Kelsey, you can reach her at her website, energyforimpact.co, as well as on Instagram, Energy for Impact. So I have really enjoyed this time, and I am so grateful again for you taking the time to tap back into life for yourself and being here and sharing this time and energy. It is such a privilege. If these episodes, feel aligned for you, and you know somebody who could also benefit from these conversations, then I really appreciate you sharing them. This is how we can get more viewers. And please, if you haven't already, I would really appreciate if you can subscribe to the channel, because that's going to help us also to get more people hearing about tapping into life. This is all about connecting to the mind, body, and soul so that we are really being who we're meant to be, which is our true selves. So thank you again. And I just welcome you if you can leave us a 5-star review, rating and review. It's so helpful. And if you have any comments, if you would like to share anything or also be a guest on the podcast, please send me an email, brendaholdercoaching.com. Thank you again. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And remember, keep tapping back into life. You deserve it. Bye for now.